to you. Tired of the ordinary at lunchtime? Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, 25th of November 2025, and we're on to program number 1492 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Alex George Jr. Now, of course, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, we are live on Facebook. You just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Please be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. And don't forget, you can also reach us on YouTube as well as our website, rcistlucia.com. A bit of history for today. We look back in time. In the year 1783, Britain evacuated New York City, its last military position in the United States at the end of the U.S. Revolutionary War. In the year 1839, a cyclone slammed southeastern India with high winds and a 40-foot storm surge, destroying the city of Coringa. And storm waves swept inland, destroying 20,000 ships and killing an estimated 300,000 people. In the year 1905, on this day, the first telegraph transmitter with a 1-mile range was advertised in Scientific American for $8.50. And in 1986, on this day, November the 25th, the Iran-Contra affair erupted as President Reagan revealed a secret arms deal. We now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here today for this program. And of course, we did see over the weekend in the continuing march to December 1st, the United Workers' Party unveiling its manifesto at a rally down in the constituency of Dennery North in the Lakai community. Tonight, the St. Lucia Labour Party is also going to be heading out to present its manifesto. And of course, we saw earlier on the presentation of a book which effectively provided what was an overview of the achievements of the St. Lucia Labour Party over the past 4 years in government. Promises delivered, it was called. And so, of course, the continued desire of parties is to be able to see that individuals come out and vote. And no doubt they'll be looking to see how they can mobilize as much of their support as possible. Of course, we have known over the years they tend to be individuals who vote for different reasons, whether they have been aligned because of their family allegiances and over the years, and they've been sort of fixed. And so each party looks towards its base of enshrined voters to ensure that they, in fact, come out to give support. But of course, that is something which can potentially shift. And as people grow older, you see a natural process of attrition. And so areas that may once have been very much hardline towards one side or the other, you're seeing shifting chances and shifting fortunes for those parties. There have only been a few seats, one could say, that have actually remained with one party consistently for well, since we've actually had these seats in existence. And I think we can speak to that of V4 North as well as Labrie. In the case of Viewfort South, I think there was in fact a change once, but generally speaking, that too has been leaning towards consistently with the St. Lucia Labour Party. The same for the Dennery and Micoud areas. Those were traditionally a stronghold of John Compton when he took over as the representative for that area somewhere around 1954, I believe. And since then, he was able to hold that area. Eventually, of course, it got divided from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 4. Became 4 seats in the 1974 general election. But we have certainly seen, though, in the case of the Dennerys, they have shifted away from that stronghold and in terms of allegiance to the United Workers' Party. So that in effect, since 2006, the Dennery North seat has in fact been held by the St. Lucia Labour Party. One of the 6 seats that they in fact have held consistently, one can say since that period of time, those being Viewfort South, Viewfort North, Labrie, and also that of Dennery North and Castries East, of course, the seat of the current Prime Minister. These seats seem to be pretty impregnable thus far, and since 2006 as well, they've also been able to hold on pretty strongly to the seat of Castries South. Now, of course, the matter of participation in the democratic process is one of those areas that we do know is something that we want to encourage, because certainly we've been seeing a falling rate of participation. And part of that is because a lot of young people do not feel very much keyed in to the democratic process. Many of them are very much jaded when it comes to their views about government in general, whether it is one party or the other. The general feel from many of them is that it is much of the same, and also it really does not impact on their lives, and so therefore they are very much not keyed in to the happenings. Of course, this is not the kind of society that perhaps is what we would like to see. Certainly, as a citizen, there should be some understanding that you have a responsibility and duty within the democratic process to be able to discern, to be able to look at the issues, to be able to, in fact, make decisions in terms of electing representatives, as well as holding those representatives to be accountable through the process. And if we don't have that, then the whole system of governance is going to be potentially vulnerable to many things which we do not want to see, whether it is, of course, the issue of apathy, but apathy leading to corruption because people believe that nobody is holding them accountable. And so we cannot afford, certainly, the situation where our young people who are coming up at this point in time are strangers to the electoral process. Now, much had been said, unfortunately, on nomination day, in my view, about students coming out and viewing and witnessing what was going on in the various areas. Because in many instances, the centers where individuals had to present themselves with their six witnesses to become nominated were in fact in schools. And so quite often you would have found that, and especially because, of course, nomination day has taken on a form of a sort of a mini parade or parade of the bands, so to speak, with the various major parties coming out trying to show strength. It, of course, has become a significant spectacle. And so as a result of that, there were a lot of students who would, of course, be witnessing what would be going on. They would be hearing the drums and the bells and the whistles. They would be seeing the fanfare from their classrooms and their schools, and would obviously want to know what is this about. And let's face it, we teach in primary level as well as in secondary level social studies. And a major aspect of the social studies curriculum is the issue of governance, the issue of democracy, the issue of how government works, understanding the electoral process. It is part of of the curriculum, effectively. And so the importance of that, and children sometimes getting the hands-on experience of seeing it firsthand, is something that we should not simply cast aside. And of course, we quite often expect that children will go on to field trips. They'll go to a field trip to a factory to see how industry works. They'll go on a field trip to a historic site to understand a particular aspect of that. Field trips are very important. And so when it actually comes to their doorstep, I think it is fair that they should, in fact, participate. And there's a very interesting article that was published earlier on today entitled Celebrating Civic Participation, Not Silencing It. And that was posted on St. Lucia News Online. And a commentary here, and which I think is pretty good to share to give some context to this entire matter. And it reads as follows. In every thriving democracy, political participation is not just a right, it is a living tradition passed from one generation to the next. Nomination Day, in particular, has long been one of the most vibrant expressions of St. Lucia's political culture, bringing together communities, families, and supporters of all ages to celebrate the spirit of democracy. Last week, Friday, Nomination Day in St. Lucia, groups of school children had the opportunity to witness that tradition firsthand as they cheered on political motorcades. Instead of applause for the participation of young people, a real life civic experience, a handful of United Workers' Party commentators rushed to attack the moment. Their outrage, however, says more about them than it does about the event. For years, we have spoken about the importance of exposing children to civic education, teaching them about their country, their constitution, and their democratic responsibilities. Yet, too often, civic education is treated as a textbook exercise far removed from lived experience. By witnessing the excitement of a motorcade, seeing candidates present themselves to the public, and observing how communities mobilize and celebrate, these children received an authentic look into the political life of their nation. This is not indoctrination, it is exposure. It is education through experience, the kind that strengthens national pride and deepens understanding of how our democracy works. St. Lucian children are not disconnected from the realities of the adults around them. They see the struggles of their parents, they hear the conversations in their households, and they experience the improvements or hardships within their communities. When young people express enthusiasm, joy, or pride on a day like Nomination Day, it is a reflection of the mood in their homes and indeed the wider country. Their excitement mirrors the energy of their families. families who have felt the impact of better healthcare, investments in their children's education, and real-life investments in people's lives over the last 4 years. Children do not exist in a political vacuum. Their reactions often reveal truths adults try to ignore. And on Friday, their joy tells a very clear story about where the momentum is and who the people across generations are standing with. Let us be honest, if those same children were waving yellow flags, the UWP would be calling it youth engagement. They would be applauding the growth of political awareness among the young. But because the show of support did not favor them, they immediately resorted to criticism, outrage, and theatrics. This selective moral concern is nothing new. When the UWP is uncomfortable with the mood of the electorate, they attack the messenger, even if the messenger is a group of innocent children simply enjoying a national moment. Their objection has nothing to do with protecting children and everything to do with political insecurity. Instead of condemning children for participating in a democratic moment, we should celebrate a generation that is becoming more aware, more engaged, and more confident in expressing themselves. These are the future leaders, voters, entrepreneurs, and change makers of St. Lucia. Their exposure today builds the foundation for a more informed and active citizenry tomorrow. Nomination Day belongs to the people, all the people, including the youngest amongst us. And if children are excited about their country's political journey, that is not a scandal. It is a sign that the spirit of democracy is alive and well. And that piece coming celebrating civic participation, not silencing it, which was published today under the name Caribbean Writers under St. Lucia News Online.net. And of course, the sentiments there are very interesting indeed. Because we all, I think, want to know that we can see greater involvement of our young people in the political process. Quite often we hear that, when the youth look at who is putting themselves up, they want to see people who are reflecting themselves, who they can identify with, people who are potentially within their same age groups, who understand their own challenges as well and who are close to their own realities. And so if in fact, that is of course one of the aspects where parties are trying to perhaps get more participation by putting up more youthful candidates. But in addition to that, we also want to ensure that young people are actively participating in the democratic process and doing so through institutions as well. And of course, the importance of having students' councils in the various secondary and schools, or head boys and head girls, having clubs that are in fact allowing for civic participation, doing things within the community, making an impact is all very, very important. And we've been speaking for a very long time about the idea of how do we get more young people to engage in volunteerism and putting themselves up for service. The concept of a national youth service is one of the things that has been touted many a time. And we've seen some attempts here and there to be able to try to achieve that. But the idea, of course, that you can have the curriculum, you can have what is being taught, what's in the textbook, what you're reading on your laptop, but it has to go beyond that into the lived and learned experience through practical experience. And so that aspect has to come through actual institutions and opportunities to engage with those institutions. So the idea of, yes, visiting Parliament and seeing what the work of Parliament, yes, visiting government offices, yes, visiting the government house and understanding those aspects of governments, the courts, for example, understanding how the courts work. But in addition to that, the importance of understanding the electoral process and understanding that it is a matter of putting forward ideas and allowing those ideas to contend, having the space for debate. I'm sure across nearly every classroom in St. Lucia, whether at the primary school level and up into the secondary school and places like South Lewis Community College and elsewhere, there are healthy debates that are in fact happening and should be happening amongst young people as well. Because, of course, it is their future. When we speak about, the importance of education, when we speak about the importance of early childhood development, when we speak about the importance of mother and child health care, all these things are important for young people today. And they, of course, want to know that they are, in fact, inheriting from an earlier generation and generations gone by things that are good. They want to ensure that their patrimony is not going to be a patrimony of waste, a patrimony of corruption, a patrimony of high debt, a patrimony that is burdening their opportunities. Because what is going to happen, of course, is already a major challenge that we have, that these young people will take up their wings and they'll fly off into places where the grass may appear greener and the opportunities better. And so certainly we do need to have a youthful population that is engaged, that feels like they have a right to speak, that are not going to be shunned if they express a viewpoint, even though their viewpoint may be naive, may not necessarily have all the intricacies and understanding of all the issues. They're still trying to connect the dots. They're still trying to understand how the world that they're coming up into is working. But they also have wonderful ideas and they also can bring forth wonderful innovations as well. So it is certainly important that all parties try to reach out to these young people and to do so in a positive way as well. And I say so because there's also on the other side of the spectrum the risk that we are promoting things like gangs. And there have been some rather unfortunate statements coming from certain quarters regarding the matter of gangs. It is one thing to say that we all need belonging. People need to have groups where they can, in fact, channel their energy and feel like they're part of something bigger. But the idea that we're saying that gangs can be good is very, very, very troubling. And what is even more concerning is when you also try to portray on the platform a certain style of environment that is sort of celebrating gang culture. And we've spoken about the challenges in schools. We've been seeing the issue of what has been transplanted from Trinidad and Tobago in particular with this idea of 6 and 7. And we saw how young people were gravitating towards these things, even though they didn't even really understand it. But because of the music, they were being attracted to it. And we have to be very careful that what we are portraying is positive and is not leading or in any way validating those types of activities, which we are already struggling with within our education system and across young people altogether. So the messaging that comes, of course, out of those platforms and messaging not merely being what you say, but how you behave, the kind of music that you're actually putting out there, all of these things have to be sensitively considered in terms of what we are saying to our young people. And so it is very important that we also embrace their participation, not just in the electoral process, of course, but beyond that, in the places of decision making. And how do we, in fact, find out from young people, what do they really want? How do they really see things? And so, of course, the importance of institutions like the National Youth Council, like the National Students Council, and other agencies that are helping young people, that, of course, is very important. And, of course, ensuring, too, that they can key into the opportunities that are being made available for them, because that's the other challenge, too. Quite a number of times, I've met a young person and, you've asked them, well, what about the youth economy? Have you considered engaging that? And sometimes they don't even know about that. And so it really means that we also need to guide our young people into the direction where there are opportunities. In fact, as we speak, the Youth Economy Agency is putting on a youth investment forum. It's a one-day forum happening up at the Harbor Club with a number of different presenters looking at a lot of different opportunities for young people, the legal issues that they need to consider in terms of starting a business, the aspects of finance and how to go about that, and seeking out finance and opportunities for investment, what's available there. So a very, very packed room from what I saw on the live. And kudos, of course, to them for the continued work that they are doing in terms of helping out young people aspire to becoming entrepreneurs. That's our dish of the day. And so when we come back, we will take in our weather report and then head to the phone lines as well.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Last year, boy, problems to get shipment of tires in time for Christmas. This year, Island Style has enough tires in stock to cover the whole of St. Lucia. And with our Christmas sales starting now, every tile is on sale. Island Style has massive stock, the widest variety, and the very best sale prices on quality tiles and natural stone in St. Lucia. Great deals on beautiful bathroom faucets, vanities and fixtures, tiling tools and accessories. Don't fall for no gimmicks anywhere else. Island Style's annual Christmas sale is unbeatable. Tiles for miles. Deals as far as the eye can see. Start your car, ride your bike, hop on a bus, and hurry down to Island Style Town and Back now. Castries, Rodney and Viewful. Check Facebook for more details.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
So the 1.1 is now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from between the east and east-northeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to partly cloudy skies with a few brief showers. And there is an advisory in average breeze that small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. The forecast for Little Antilles over the extreme southern portion, or that should be over the extreme southern Les Antilles, generally cloudy skies with showers and isolated thunderstorms. Elsewhere, fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few brief showers. The tropical weather outlook, the Atlantic high pressure system will maintain moderate easterly winds across the Les Antilles during the next few days. Also, the intertropical convergence zone will bring cloudy skies with showers and possibly isolated thunderstorms over the extreme southern portion of the region during the next 24 hours. Elsewhere, patches of low-level clouds drifting along the wind flow will cause a few passing showers during the forecast period. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And this has been your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Last year, boy, problems to get shipment of tires in time for Christmas. This year, Island Style has enough tires in stock to cover the whole of St. Lucia. And with our Christmas sales starting now, every tile is on sale. Island Style has massive stock, the widest variety, and the very best sale prices on quality tires. And natural stone in St. Lucia. Great deals on beautiful bathroom faucets, vanities and fixtures, tiling tools and accessories. Don't fall for no gimmicks anywhere else. Island Style's annual Christmas sale is unbeatable. Tiles for miles. Deals as far as the eye can see. Start your car, ride your bike, hop on a bus, and hurry down to Island Style Town and back now. Castries, Rodney and V4. Check Facebook for more details.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also call in to our WhatsApp number, 724-0008. Of course, we want to pay a bit of a tribute to the passing of the late reggae legend Jimmy Cliff, and he died yesterday at the age of 81. There's an article on him on the BBC, just to share it very, very quickly. Jimmy Cliff, one of the most prominent and beloved proponents of reggae music, has died at the age of 81. A star since the 1960s, he helped to bring the sound of Jamaica to a global audience through hits such as Wonderful World, Beautiful People, and You Can Get It If You Really Want It. His lead role as a gun-toting rebel in the 1972 crime drama The Harder They Come is a cornerstone of Jamaican cinema and was attributed as the movie that brought reggae to America. Cliff's wife, Latifah Chambers, announced his death via a statement on Instagram. Quote, "It's with profound sadness that I share that my husband, Jimmy Cliff, has crossed over due to a seizure followed by pneumonia," she wrote. "I am thankful for his family, friends, fellow artists, and co-workers who have shared his journey with him. To all his fans around the world, please know that your support was his strength throughout his whole career. Jimmy, my darling, may you rest in peace. I will follow your wishes." Her message was also signed by their children, Litley and Aiken. Born James Chambers in 1944, Cliff grew up as the eighth of 9 children in abject poverty in the parish of St. James, Jamaica. Blessed with a sweet, mellifluous voice, he began singing at his local church at the age of 6. He was inspired to write his own material when he heard ska pioneer Derek Morgan on the radio and asked his woodwork teacher how one might go about composing their own song. Quote, "He told me, you just write it," he told Mojo magazine. "So I went ahead and wrote a song called I Need a Fiancé, another called Sob Sob, and I made a guitar out of bamboo to accompany myself." By the time he was 14, he'd moved to Kingston and adopted the surname Cliff to express the heights he intended on reaching. He recorded a handful of singles before topping the Jamaican charts with his own composition, Hurricane Hattie. In 1965, he relocated to London to work with Island Records, later the home of Bob Marley, but the label's attempts to make his sound palatable to rock audiences were initially unsuccessful. He eventually struck gold with the 1969 single Wonderful World, Beautiful People, an upbeat, feel-good anthem, and a more politically charged Vietnam, which Bob Dylan called the best protest song ever written. Its lyric tells the story of a young soldier who writes from the war, promising his mother he'll be home soon, only for her to receive a telegram the next day informing her of his death. Cliff reflected on the song in 1986, telling reggae archivist Roger Steffens, quote, The essence of my music is struggle. What gives it the icing is the hope of love. The musician became an international star with The Harder They Come, expressly written for the movie of the same name, in which he played Ivan Martin, a young man trying to break into Jamaica's corrupt music industry. Quote, the film opened the door for Jamaica, Cliff recalled. It said, this is where this music comes from. Cliff contributed 4 songs to the soundtrack, including the gospel hymn, Many Rivers to Cross, which reflected his early days as a struggling artist in the UK. I was still in my teens, he later recalled. I came full of vigor. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be up there with the Beatles and the Stones. And it wasn't really going like that. I was touring clubs, not breaking through. I was struggling with work, life, my identity. I couldn't find my place. Frustration fueled the song. Instead of the film and its soundtrack won him international acclaim. Rolling Stone magazine even named it one of their top 500 albums of all time. During the 1980s, he collaborated with the Rolling Stones on their Dirty Work album, and he returned to the US charts in 1993 with his cover of I Can See Clearly Now from the soundtrack for Cool Runnings, which followed the escapades of Jamaica's bobsled team. His other recordings included the Grammy Award-winning albums Cliffhanger in 1985 and Rebirth in 2012 in a nostalgic return to form. Cliff entered the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010, calling it a great thrill and an honor. Inducting him, Fuji's star Wyclef Jean said he'd been inspired by Cliff's success as a young boy growing up in Haiti. Quote, when we saw Jimmy Cliff, we saw ourselves, he said. Cliff continued to tour late into his life, playing Glastonbury's Legend slot in 2003 and winning over a new generation of fans at the 2010 Coachella Festival. His contributions to Jamaican music and culture were recognized in October 2003 when he was awarded the country's prestigious Order of Merit. But the singer said his connections to fans was more important than any of the other honors bestowed upon him. Speaking to U.S. radio station NPR in 2012, he reflected, quote, when someone comes up to me and says, I was a dropout in school and I heard your song, you can get it if you really want. And that song made me go back to school. And now I am a teacher and I use your songs with my students. That, for me, is a big success. And so, of course, we want to ask that he rests in peace. Jimmy Cliff, passing on at the age of 81. We also want to send out some condolences to the family of Mr. Stephen Favre, as well as his brother, of course, Stephen, on the passing of their father. And a release was sent on the 22nd over the weekend, in fact, announcing the passing of an individual who was certainly a major pillar of the Baptist community here in St. Lucia, serving for a number of years as a pastor of the First Baptist Church on Darling Road. And of course, we speak of Reverend Joseph Favre. The release reads as follows. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved father, Reverend Joseph Favre, JP, today, the 22nd of November, 2025. He was a devoted father and husband who exemplified what it means to be a Christian. Pastor Favre, as he was affectionately known, dedicated over 50 years of his life to the service of God, the community, and especially the least fortunate among us. His life was marked by selfless service in the furtherance of the teachings of his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He leaves behind his sons, Timothy and Stephen, On behalf of our family, we ask that you hold us in your prayers during this most difficult time. And that really is coming from the family over the weekend. And of course, Mr. Stephen Favre is the candidate for the United Workers' Party for the constituency of Castries North. He's heading up against the Honorable Stevenson King, who is seeking re-election in that constituency under the Blue Wave banner. And so we certainly want to extend our condolences and commiserations to the Favre family. No doubt it's been a very difficult year. They also lost their mum earlier on this year. And then now, of course, in fact, Pastor Favre was present at the church for that funeral. And now, of course, he himself going to the great beyond. So definitely a very difficult time and timely for his passing. And we so certainly want to hope that the family can hold strong at this time. Also want to shift gears and to go into another article, a very interesting article that was published by a pretty well-known individual by the name of Mr. McHale Andrew, and an opinion piece, which he originally posted on Facebook, on his Facebook page, and has been circulating pretty widely. A bit of a commentary on the moving forward at this time. And it, in fact, is entitled At the Crossroads Again, Why St. Lucia Must Choose Progress Over Partisan Reflex. It reads as follows: peace, kindness, empathy, humility. These are not abstract ideas. They are the foundational qualities that strengthen communities, sustain democracies, and help small nations like ours navigate an increasingly turbulent global environment. It is in this spirit that I offer a gentle, non-partisan appeal to all St. Lucians ahead of the general elections on December 1st. We each have the right and indeed the duty to vote, but we also share a responsibility to reflect soberly on the broader national picture. Over the 4 past electoral cycles, 2006, 2011, 2016, 2021, our voting patterns reveal a clear trend long recognized by the late Jamaican pollster, Professor Carl Stone. Caribbean electorates often vote governments out due to frustration rather than vote in alternative administrations based on superior plans or programs. Here in St. Lucia, this pattern has produced frequent changes of government, more in rejection than in aspiration. The consequence has been abrupt policy reversals, institutional instability, stalled long-term initiatives, and a deepening of partisan division. The cycle carries a significant cost. It interrupts development. It weakens institutions. It reduces investor confidence. And it transfers national energy away from progress and toward a perpetual resetting of the political clock. Yet today, the data paint a very different picture of our current trajectory. 1, economic growth has returned, with the Caribbean Development Bank and IMF acknowledging sustained recovery across multiple quarters. 2, unemployment has dropped to its lowest levels in decades, down from the mid to high 20% range of previous years to the low teens more recently. 3, social indicators, from youth employment programs to community infrastructure, have shown clear, measurable improvement. 4, and importantly, national policy over the past 4 years has been deliberately centered on people-focused development rather than narrow partisan, familial, or class-based interests. Against this backdrop, there is no compelling national rationale to revert to a model of governance previously associated with heightened societal tension, public vindictiveness, divisive rhetoric, and persistent efforts, both in government and in opposition, to undermine national progress through polarization rather than unity. St. Lucia cannot afford a return to instability masquerading as leadership. We cannot afford governance driven by personal ambition rather than national interest. Nor can we afford the corrosive politics of grievance, hostility, and institutional undermining. Leadership must build bridges, not deepen it. It must elevate discourse, not drag it into the gutter. And it must put the people and the country, not personalities or partisan calculation, first. As we approach December 1st, may we vote with intention. May we choose continuity where it benefits the many. May we break the cycle of reflexive rejection. May we resist the temptation to reset simply because the election calendar allows it. And may we signal with clarity and conviction that St. Lucia's future matters more than partisan reflex or recycled negativity. A word to the wise. And again, that article just recently published, an opinion piece, I should say, at the crossroads again, why St. Lucia must choose progress over partisan reflex. And that was penned by Mr. McHale Andrew, economist in the Ministry of Finance and Planning, formerly also served as a number of different positions, permanent secretary, as well as the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Invest St. Lucia. Very, very timely piece, I would say, certainly giving a warning of sorts and advice of sorts as well into the entire matter of the electorate and that desire of voting governments out. And he is certainly correct. We have not seen a two-term period of continuity since that period of 1997 to 2006. Since then, we've been going back and forth on the pendulum. And of course, we've been seeing changes. And each time, of course, that happens, we're seeing reversal of projects. We've seen projects in abeyance. We've seen changes based on not really what is critical for the national development, but unfortunately geared more towards partisan reprisal quite often. So let's go to the phone lines to take in some thoughts. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hi, good afternoon. So in the piece you just read there from Mr. Michael Andrew.
Yes.
So in a certain nutshell, you're saying keep what you have there already?
Well, I mean, caller, I think that's certainly what he is suggesting. He's saying don't vote out of government just because you can, and we need to get away from this idea of the negativity of really and truly. The big issue is, are we going to objectively compare the records of these respective administrations and these respective individuals who, as I said, both have been prime minister over the past 10 years, or well, not even 10 years, almost 10 years, Mr. Alan Chastney and Mr. Philip J. Pierre. Because at the end of it all, we do know that the buck stops with the prime minister. And the person who we put as prime minister really is the most single decision. And of course, we have a vote for our candidate in our respective constituencies, yes.
But as you read everything, then I listen attentively. It's just one thing you can get out of that. Just keep the present government, put them back into office. That's all I get. Put them back into office. But I'm listening to most of the individual candidates as they give the thing about righting the wrong and all of these things. And then I'm listening to what's on health, when this gentleman talk about almost every country in the world now has thing into universal healthcare and all sorts of things.
That every country in the world has universal.
Now, and I did do my research. There are 195 countries. Only 73 countries have universal.
Caller, for some reason, I'm not hearing you very clearly.
Yes. I did my research. There are 195 countries. 73 have universal healthcare, and mostly European countries. And universal healthcare is because of taxes.
Right.
Only taxes that carry all of those countries thing. They live on taxes. America, before it trillion, do not have universal.
That's correct.
I have no intentions of even ever unless some president come and want to try it.
And spends the most on healthcare, far more than the many countries that have universal healthcare. That's the other critical point.
Yeah. Another thing is that I'm hearing the $75,000 $75,000,
right.
And it didn't say the first sum on that we would phase. It said that everybody, not some, everybody, which is about 180,000 or even more. And I went and Googled, and I Googled like 100,000 by 75. I didn't even put in the 80. And it amounted to 7,005,000,000. Mm-hmm. And our budget is just 1 billion every time. So where will all that money be? I'm hearing the 75,000. I mean the 25,000 towards the youth for whatever it is to start a business. Then there's the other 25,000 for housing for the
remember,
youth.
Caller, remember the way those things work is that, I mean, that's your coverage, right? So that is the value that you could potentially max out at, right? But the assumption is, and this is where you would have actuaries come in, they look at, well, what are the likelihoods of what services would people utilize on a regular basis?
Yeah.
What is the health of the population? Where are we at in that regard? And they will have to do a lot of analysis to then say, well, the average person in that population may not necessarily be spending, or they may not be maxing out at that 75,000. Mm-hmm. There may be some who will require even more, but then there'll be many who might just be utilizing a few services in a year. So let's say, for example, their dental or their clinical, their eye checkup. So the idea is that not everybody's going to be utilizing all the services at the same time. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if they've properly explained a lot of what is going on, but this is in principle how a health insurance would work. The issue that we have, though, is that we have not really been told very clearly
where the money is coming from,
what the premiums are going to be. One, right? What the premiums are going to be. Is there going to be any differentiation in the premiums? Is everybody going to be paying the same rate? Right? Is that's a major issue as well. How are people going to be able to afford it? Right? Because if you have people on the lower ends too, how are you going to structure those premiums? That is the bigger question that we're going to have to ask.
Because if are people
who are making more going to pay more? I mean, those are the kind of questions. And then as well, who is going to be able to manage the system, which is another major element in this entire issue. But there are a lot of unknowns, and there are a lot of things that have to be determined. You have to be able to have the services, some of the services which you can provide locally, and then how do you tackle the services that you need to provide outside of the country? So are you going to be there are a lot of things that you would have to work out, and I don't think it's been very clearly brought forward in terms
I heard the former prime minister trying to think. He said it's not going to be every year. But
more importantly, More
Yeah.
importantly, caller, more importantly, we were promised this before.
Yeah.
Right? We were promised the very same thing for the past in every single year, in every
Yeah.
single budget. We were hearing about this very same universal health care. And so I don't know precisely how he feels that it is more advanced at this point, because there has been work that has been already being done through the universal health care program to bring on particular services to the most critical groups. So that's why you have the hypertension, diabetes, the seniors over 80, child and maternal care, so you can get your sonograms and other appointments checked up. And,
Yeah.
so a lot of these things are already coming on stream. Not all of them, clearly, right? So things like now, you now have to go ask, well, okay, when are we going to be bringing on dentals? When will we bring on free checkups for everybody? I mean, we
But
have
a
free
lot of
checkups for
that is
men.
already in place, because like the men that are doing the prostate, I know this is free. They give them the vouchers to get this.
Precisely.
So a lot of things that is already in place. So,
Precisely.
Yeah. So, but when you're going to say everybody is going to be covered, and you want to, and we have a tax threshold that is not everybody's paying tax, and then they're going to be removing the 2.5. You want to lower, if you're going to lower taxes, because from what I do my research on Google, it's through all those taxes, Canada and all those places.
Of course, it's through taxation. And that's the issue then. Mr. Shastri comes and he says he needs to raise $120 million per year for this program. That's what he has admitted. He then, but in the same breath, right? Well, we have to work out what that would be for a fee per person, right? But in that same breath, he then says that he's taking out the health and safety levy.
Yes.
So you're saying that health and safety levy is helping making the kind of investments that you need right now in the health sector, as well as the security sector, and it's raising about $35-40 million.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the government is going to fund certain individuals, right, and their premiums, but where's that money going to come from? Especially when you already are saying you're going to take out the health and security levy, so it doesn't add up. It's not. I mean, clearly, what he's suggesting is not going to work.
I mean, all of those things like the house for the young, the money towards the house, and I'm wondering, when did we discover we have oil in St. Lucia?
The money for houses. Sorry.
I'm wondering, when did we discover we had oil in St. Lucia? When I'm hearing all this fun, all of what just has been offered, this is going to be taken, we'll be getting that, will be all the time. And where is all that money coming from? And I know they're supposed to have two economists with them, which is his name, Prevail and Descartes, and they just the school themselves for free schooling, free this, free that, all of those things. But then you want to lower, no taxes, you want to remove the 2.5 because they're squeezing the people, they're making the people suffer, because you have to listen to the candidates, and that's all you hear. They're making the people suffer by the taxes they're taking of them. We want to take food. Look now, I see.
Caller, we saw an increase in the 150 per gallon on gas, right? That was after a promise of lowering the price of gas, and that was after he also claimed that there was a hidden tax of $6.80, right? He increased it, so he did exactly the opposite of what he said, and then he claimed that there was remember the lockbox?
Yes.
The lockbox. And then everybody asked him, well, where's the lockbox? Because if you have a lockbox, it means that the money is going into a special account. You should be able to say how much money was accrued in the lockbox. He can't do it because there never was a lockbox. So he's just throwing out terms. He knows they're not real, right? But it's again to try to give this impression that it's what you would call double accounting, right? You're claiming that you have something, but you don't have it, and then you're putting it in two places, and at the end of the day, it can only be in one, and that is the problem. So it doesn't work out.
But the thing is that there are people that are buying into all of these things. People they don't even see this thing as not even being real. Some of the things are not even being realistic. They're actually buying into all of these things.
Paula, and all you have, and I would say to you, all we have in this situation right now is that you have two leaders who both have records.
Yes.
Anybody can say anything. Anybody can say anything if they are going up for elections. The issue is at this point, what did they do when they had to prove themselves? What were their actions when they had to prove themselves? Somebody comes and promises you, I'm going to take out VAT, right?
Yeah.
What happened? What happened is that later on, he then had to come and say, well, for us to have taken out VAT, it would have meant we'd have had to have introduced another tax. Really? I mean, so, that is the subterfuge. That is the flashing mirrors, effectively. It's a really good
I
term
think,
in this
yes.
instance,
I think we need to pay more attention, because at the end of the day, you can see two leaders. One who is real, he says what he's going to do, and you actually see it. You have it right before you. And one who's just
imaginary?
To give us fantasy island.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's a real, you have a real instance and an imaginary. You have somebody who's coming and telling you, giving you the world and offering you the world.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what people surely, people have to be discerning about what can be real, what can be achieved,
and what is not real,
and what cannot be achieved. Right?
Like, we're not in TV world.
What's that?
We're not in TV world.
Yeah, but if somebody comes and promises you something, I'm going to give you $1 million. Really?
Yeah.
How are you going to get that $1 million? Where is that coming from? And I think, it's a portrayal of, Santa Claus. The gentleman is not Santa Claus, but then it's almost as if the individuals want to portray that somehow somebody is going to come, and a benevolent person is going to come with a massive sack of money and is going to somehow bankroll St. Lucia. No, it's not going to happen.
And the candidates are repeating most of all of these things. It's like Santa Claus and his elves. So the elves know Santa Claus and they're saying what Santa Claus tells them to say. So,
all right, Cora. Thanks very much for that. Take care.
Okay.
All the best. Now, of course, we'll be back again tomorrow for another program of the Lunchroom, and I do hope that you can join us for that. And in the meantime, do have yourself a very blessed night. As I mentioned, of course, the St. Lucia Labour Party will be having their launch of their manifesto this evening. So hopefully by maybe not tomorrow, because we do have some sponsored programs, but we'll see if we can do some comparisons of looking at the respective manifestos for the rest of the week. And of course, records as well. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.